Imagine waking up one day, walking onto your property, and realizing someone else built an entire neighborhood on your land. That's right, 35 homes, an HOA, families living their daily lives, all standing on land you legally own. What would you do? Call a lawyer? Go to court? Oh, would you take matters into your own hands? Today, I'm going to tell you a story, how an HOA thought they could outsmart me, how they built homes where they didn't belong, and how one decision involving a dam changed everything. This isn't just about property rights. It's about greed, power, and the fight for justice. So grab a drink, settle in, because this is going to be a wild ride. Before we get into the chaos, let's go back to the beginning. This land wasn't just any piece of dirt. It was a 100-acre stretch with a creek running through, some wooded areas, and a dam I had maintained for years. My grandfather bought it, passed it down, and it was always meant to stay in the family. It wasn't flashy, it was peaceful. A spot where I could fish, where wildlife thrived, where the water flowed exactly as I wanted it to. So when developers started snooping around town, trying to buy up land for new subdivisions, I made it clear, this land is not for sale. But you know how HOAs and developers work. If they can't buy you out, sometimes they'll build around you. One morning, I'm driving past a property line, and I see trucks, excavators, surveyors. I'm thinking, okay, maybe they are building nearby. But weeks later, I come back and realize they weren't just building nearby. They were building on my land. Streets were paved. Homes were framed. By the time I got lawyers involved, 35 houses were already up, families moving in. And here's the kicker. The HOA had no idea the land wasn't properly transferred. They thought they bought it fair and square. But somewhere in their paperwork, somebody messed up. Legally, I still own the entire stretch, including the spot where they built those homes. I went to the HOA board and said, "Hey, you built on my land. We need to talk." They laughed, literally laughed in my face, told me I was crazy, told me to leave, even threatened to call the cops on me, on my own property. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end with handshakes. I tried to go the legal route first, hired a lawyer, filed claims, even showed title deeds proving ownership. But HOAs have money. Developers have money. They dragged it out in court, delayed hearings, filed motions, counterclaims, anything to wear me down. Meanwhile, the home sold. Families moved in. Kids played in yards that technically weren't theirs. Do you know how surreal it is to drive past land your family has owned for generations and see strangers waving from porches built without your permission? Months turned into years. My lawyer told me, "You're in the right," but they are stalling, hoping you'll give up or take a cheap settlement. I refused, but I also started thinking, maybe there's another way. Remember that dam I mentioned earlier? It was small, but powerful enough to redirect a creek that ran through my land. For years, I had maintained it, making sure water level stayed safe, making sure it didn't overflow. The HOA? They didn't even realize part of their neighborhood sat below the waterline if that dam was ever opened. See where this is going? One hot summer afternoon, after another court delay, after another round of HOA board members mocking me, I walked down to that dam. I stood there for a long time, looking out over water, thinking about everything my family had been through. And then, I turned the wheel. The gates opened, and water started to flow. At first, it was slow, just a steady rush of water making its way downstream. But within hours, that neighborhood started to feel it. Backyards flooded, lawns disappeared, basements filled with water. Homeowners panicked. The HOA scrambled. Calls went out. People demanded answers. And me? I stood at the edge of my property, watching the water reclaim the land that was never theirs to begin with. Now, before you think I'm some villain here, let's be clear. I didn't break any laws. That dam was mine. That water was mine. And legally, I had every right to open it. The HOA built their homes on land they didn't own. They gambled, and they lost. The flood didn't wipe out the homes, but it caused enough damage to make headlines. Insurance companies got involved. Banks started asking questions. Homeowners realized they bought property built on land that was never legally sold. And suddenly, the HOA wasn't laughing anymore. They came to me, desperate, begging for negotiations. The same people who mocked me weeks earlier were now pleading to work something out. But here's the thing, I wasn't interested in being their savior. Instead, I pushed the case harder. With the flood as proof of how unstable their neighborhood was, the court finally moved. The judge ruled in my favor, confirming that I owned the land, and the HOA had trespassed on private property. Some homeowners had to leave. Others sued the HOA for selling them houses on land they never owned. The developer? Bankrupt. The HOA? Dissolved. And my land? Still mine. This story isn't just about property lines. It's about standing your ground when people think they can push you around. Developers thought I'd give up. The HOA thought I'd roll over. But sometimes, the only way to remind people the truth is to let the water flow. So if you're ever in a fight with a giant organization, remember, the law is slow, but it's on your side if you've got the proof. And sometimes, a little patience, and maybe a dam, can go a long way. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me through this wild story. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have opened the dam, or let the HOA keep laughing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoy stories like this, real estate drama, HOA nightmares, and tales of ordinary people fighting back, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Until next time, take care and watch where you build.